What happens in divorce court is what we're talking about today in the East Central Business Show. I'm John Naylor, and I'm joined by Helen Baker, resident expert financial planner.
Thank you.
And
Hi.
Shannon Daykin from Daykin Family Law, and you're an accredited family law specialist.
That's right.
I rolled it out. All right, and that disclaimer, I'm going to have a fourth go at this now. This is general information that the ladies are doing today, and so any specifics about your situation should be dealt with independent advice. Okay, happy with that, ladies?
Yay. Welcome to our world of disclaimers.
Yeah, well, get good at it too. All right, let's crack on with it. Divorce court, it's nowhere anyone wants to go, I take it.
I don't think so. Shannon's got some great stories.
Absolutely not. I think that there's a few misconceptions out there about what's going to actually happen once they get to court, get to the family court or the federal circuit court for their matter, and that at the end of this process they're going to get either a tiara or a gold star and you know, get that
come
validation.
Out on top.
Yes, or even just coming out on top of the validation, but quite often family law matters in court, no one wins. You know, the lawyers end up getting a lot of fees. So they might be perceived by perceived as a lot of people as being the winners at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But no, it can be an emotionally exhausting process, very expensive can be, and it can also be a large chunk of your life, and you're held up for a couple of years in the court system, maybe more, waiting for the decision where you give away all your control to the judge.
Yeah, okay. And those things do tend to carry on for a while. Yeah,
Yes,
I take it.
They absolutely do. There's a lot of people that are in the court system in the queue waiting for a decision, and if there's a lot of interim matters, a lot of matters to settle along the way, it can drag the process out and make it that much more costly. And I think that the thing that people often overlooked is the impact on the co-parenting relationship moving forward after they've just had a big dust up in the court. It can really impact on things moving forward, and for a lot of people that's, you know, just not satisfactory. Yeah,
well, off camera you're telling me that you can actually attend the family law court and see that all the warts and all type cross-examinations and stuff, it gets brutal.
It's a pretty intense process, and you know, when you think about you've got a business to look after or you've got a job, the kids, all of those sorts of things, it takes your attention away, and it can really sap those resources. So it really should be a last resort for anyone contemplating it.
Yeah, okay. So can we address some of those misconceptions? Because I understand it's actually a pretty small percentage of stuff goes through the family law court. Yeah?
Yes.
But it's perceived as expensive, but it need not be if you can avoid it. It will be ugly. Yeah.
Yeah, look, it's just not an option that a lot of people need to take unless there's good reason to do it. So coming into this process, being able to negotiate yourselves, sit around the table, figure out what's going to happen, and then go to the lawyers and draw it up. That's the most cost-effective way, in my experience, to get your property settlement or your parenting matter or spousal maintenance or child support issues finalised so that you can move on. And then there's a continuum. You can have the lawyers negotiating, and if you go to one that is maybe collaboratively trained like myself, who can use an extra toolkit to sit down and say to people, hey, let's focus on the things that matter for you and what you want to achieve, and let's move towards that. And then, you know, there are a few stops before going to court. There's mediation, there's family dispute resolution. There's a lot of things that can be done without having to go hand your control over, as I said, to the court and wait for a decision.
Yeah, okay. And just touching on even that misconception I'd like to believe is out there about family lawyers being down with like marketing professionals in terms of our reputation for and what happens around the fees and how they tend to stack up. But I understand from talking with you that's never the intention, or rarely so.
Not at all. I think as family lawyers, the focus should be on getting you out as quickly as possible and reaching the goals that you want to achieve. And along the way, you can have discussions with your lawyer about, well, how much, if I go down this road, is that going to cost me? And your lawyer should be having frank discussions with you about, look, that's really a rabbit hole. I don't think it's going to have much joy for you at the end of it. Let's just move on and focus on the bigger things that you told me originally mattered. And then we help keep you on track, because that's what should happen. But unfortunately, we don't have a lot of control over the process either, and maybe the strategy that the other side is going to take. So I think going to someone, a family lawyer that's been in the game for a while and has experience, they can help manage the process with you as best they can and advise you about, okay, here's how to deal with this. How's here to be? You can be pragmatic about this issue. Doesn't need to be a big dispute. Let's just move forward.
Okay, fabulous. Now, Helen, you've spent most of this episode nodding. Let's give you a go.
Very good.
Yeah, I know. It is about being in court, but how does that impact in the world of financial advice in divorce and that sort of thing?
Yeah, so one of the things I like to do is work with the client about, what's the future going to look like? So what is it that we're trying to work towards? And then we can work out some analysis around the settlement options that they can have. So they understand the pros and cons, which means they can go to the lawyer at the start and say, okay, this is what I want. Whereas if it goes down to the court, like the rabbit hole of, down here, someone else is making that decision, i.e. the judge is making the decision about which assets you'll walk away with. And that might not be really helpful for your long term. So this is when you see people having to sell something that they walked away with, which has costs, even if it's your own home, the stamp duty and the marketing cost to get out and get back in. How much does that cost to do that? So it's about trying to do that. And I think going back to what Shannon's saying, I think a lot of people, where they're having some turbulence is they want the judge to stand up and say, you've been really bad, which really actually the judge, pretty much non-emotional, aren't they? They're just looking at this going bang. And so the risk is that they end up in a not as great a situation as they probably could. And the cost thing is a big aspect because you can't really get that back. And a lot of times I have seen cases where, the situation has been complex enough that it did have to go to court, companies involved and so on. But I would think that in most cases there's better ways.
And as you were saying, when you give away that control, us family lawyers like to use the analogy of that if you can sit down and work out a settlement with your former spouse or de facto partner, then we can get out the scalpel and craft you a settlement that's beautiful, I guess, for want of a better word. And what I mean by that is, sitting down with a financial planner as your accountant, crafting a settlement that takes into account all of the things it needs to, tax issues and those sorts of things. So it's a settlement that works for the parties, works for the two of you.
Oh, okay.
You go to the land of the court and you end up with a judgment from one of the judges there. They get the hatchet out and they chop up your property pool because that's essentially what they're there to do. They're there to apply the facts to the law and come up with a settlement that's just and equitable. But it may not be the settlement that you want, and it may not be as beautiful as if you just both took a step back way before and said, let's do this together in a way that's going to work for both of us.
Okay, yeah, because I hear that like doing it well and avoiding court, stamp duty, contracts, there's capital gains implications from your side.
Massive.
This is about, the fact that we have got an obligation in life to get the feather in the nest, and we can do a lot of damage, if it goes to court.
Yeah.
The whole financial situation,
And I think a lot of times people are wrapped up. I know of one I talk about in the latest book, which is it was actually the husband that was trying to get the wife to understand that to settle based on this. Company was involved, so it got a little bit confusing. But I'm not sure that, to me, I never met the lady, but I think she was wrapped up in fear, so she just actually couldn't see how this was going to play out for her long term. Whereas if you can deal with that fear factor that, you're going to be fine because this is where it's all going to come from and this is how you're going to be supported going forward, you can close it out. But, that was $120,000, I think, in legal fees and we're still going. So,
okay. Terrible. Okay. Anyway, we're just about out of time in this episode. We better wrap it up. Now, Helen Baker, how do they get more Helen Baker?
From onyourown2feet.com.au.
And Shannon?
Just through my website as well, daykinfamilylaw.com.au.
Okay, fabulous. Sorry, plenty of great knowledge in this series that we're doing specifically around the subject of divorce and legal matters, financial matters. And we'll see you next time on the East Central Business Show. So, just a general chat with Helen Baker, our resident expert financial planner on the East Central Business Show. Helen, now, where's this passion come from about financial planning? We've just shot your first series. You've talked about you like it.
Yeah.
Where's that come from?
I didn't know to start with. So my background was originally more as a fixer. So I used to go into businesses and fix things and make things happen. So I think the combination of the finance background, the project management, the fixer, and dealing with people, 1, 2, 3, and here I am. Okay,
fabulous. Now we're going to put a disclaimer up around us at the moment, so it's probably down here somewhere-ish. But it's really important that people understand that whatever we do in these episodes is not specific advice, yeah?
No, so specific advice must be tailored to their personal circumstances. So we'll just be talking generally about bits and things and if that interests them and sparks them, they can seek specific advice from there.
Okay, so now how do people get their Helen Baker though? So there's a book and there's a website to make contact, yeah?
Yeah, so there's the website, there is the book that you can buy. I'm on LinkedIn. You find me wandering around Brisbane.
Okay.
Leave me alone if I'm at the groceries. No. So yeah, just onyourown2feet.com.au is the hub of where you'll find everything you need to know,
And
really.
that's the book title as well, isn't it?
It is. What does that mean? It's all consistent.
Okay, fabulous. All right, so that's a couple of great ways to get your Helen Baker, the resident expert financial planner on the East Central Business Show.